What's up, party people? It's your old pal F here for another episode of F Bombs. In case you're new to the Fountain's Pen Cartoons channel, this is sort of my corner of YouTube where I talk about my long and storied career in the animation industry that spans over a quarter of a century, uh, as well as just animation and cartoon topics in general. So, welcome. Oh gosh, AI art, you old bugaboo AI art. That's what we're going to talk about today. I got to tell you, I'm sort of oddly nervous about talking about this subject because I know it's one that gets people very, very worked up, and rightfully so. I get worked up when I think about it and when I talk about it. But before we dive into it, let me please encourage anyone seeing this, anyone within the sound of my voice, please, 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 check out this channel. Because if you don't know, this channel exists as a means of giving young and inexperienced animation talent a vessel with which to practice and hone their craft. I created this space as a way of sort of circumventing that paradoxical horror show that is the I can't get a job because I can't get experience, and I can't get experience because I can't get a job hullabaloo. So what we do is I created a Discord server where artists and animators from literally all over the globe, we gather and we make cartoons together, and we put them up on this channel for free. No advertising, no, sponsors, no, Patreon, anything, nothing. We're doing it for free. We're doing it out of the love of the craft, and we're doing it to gain experience. And by the way, we're doing it because it's been fun. However, we are really, really, really trying to build something here. So if you could do us a favor, hit like, share, subscribe, and moreover, we're trying to operate this on a very grassroots level, so please just spread the word about us. If you tune into the channel and you watch our stuff and it's not your cup of tea, hey, no harm, no foul, but maybe you know someone who would like this stuff. We've got a whole variety of very, very different cartoons already up. We've got more on the way, and again, they're just going to keep sort of evolving, taking on different shapes. We try to do a little bit of everything here. This is our sort of mad scientist lab that we're all working in. We're all making these crazy cartoons. So please spread the word. Please share with your friends. Let everyone know that we're here. Encourage everyone to give us a try. We're really trying to get to a place where we can, quite frankly, monetize. And in order to get that, we have to produce long-form content so that we can get watch hours, which is why I create these videos. So anyway, if you haven't checked it out, I've got a whole bunch of different stories from my life as an animator up on this channel in the F-Bombs category that are, I think very interesting stories. I've got one called Cartoon Chaos, which literally documents my ascent from obscure underground cartoonist from Kalamazoo, Michigan, into being the supervising director on the second largest cartoon in kids television, The Fairly Odd Parents. I've got one about my time on Invader Zim. I've got one about how I worked on the pilot episode of Rick and Morty. There's lots of good stuff there. So if you're interested in sort of the inside gossip or behind the scenes look at animation, I think you'll find them really interesting. And certainly, if you yourself are interested in getting into animation, there are bits of knowledge and nuggets of wisdom baked within those cookies that I think many of you would find useful. Oh, there's also one that people seem to like a lot about how I worked on the South Park movie and how terrible I was at it. So, but that one too has just a ton of good stuff in it, particularly for those who are really, really struggling in their careers. So please give these videos a chance. Um, and also watch our cartoons. I think they're really good. Um, okay, so with that out of the way, let's talk about AI art. It's funny because I tweeted this out. I'm gonna make a video about AI art, and I'm gonna put all this to bed once and for all. And ever since I put that out on Twitter, there was a big response to it, and now I'm. You can probably hear it in my voice. I'm nervous, which is weird because I don't get nervous when I'm making these videos because I don't know if you can tell, but these are really low tech. I do not write a script. I don't put any planning into them whatsoever. You're not going to see any graphics come up. You're not going to, there's not going to be any, fancy special effects or anything. These are just me talking and, you know, talking to a reflection of myself in my computer screen is probably the most comfortable type of conversation I have in my life. You know, I'm more comfortable talking in this venue than I am in practically any other, and yet having now given this topic and given people's response to it quite a bit of thought, I'm finding myself sort of honestly nervous. So I thought I'd share that with you. So what better for jangled nerves than some coffee? Anyway, here's the thing about AI art, and let me start out by saying this very honestly, and again, this is one of those things that people have very strong opinions on. Let me say this at the outset. These are my opinions. These are not the opinions of anyone who works with me at Fountain's Pen Productions. These are purely mine. And let me say at the outset, I don't know that I'm right. I always go into everything sort of under the assumption that I'm probably wrong and that there's probably something that I'm not seeing. So I invite your comments. I invite, any opinions you have on the matter in the comment section, please, because I read them and if I'm wrong on this, I would love for somebody to point it out because there's nothing I hate more than being wrong. So if you can set me straight, feel free to do so. But here's the thing, and by the way, if you disagree with me, no harm, no foul. Again, I don't. I am not here to proclaim that I have the answers for everything. And in fact, if I had to, write a thesis statement for this video, it would be that I don't have the answers for this. The answer is that there is no answer. And I'll tell you what I mean in a minute. What I will say is this. When it comes to AI art, and this is me being, by the way, completely objective, or as objective as I'm capable of being, I have yet to see any AI art that has not just struck me as soulless, hideous, and ugly. Sorry, but I haven't. And at no point have I seen any AI art where I haven't looked at it and said, yep, that is AI art. Now, everyone keeps commenting whenever I say anything like that. People say, oh, well, look at it 10 years from now. Okay, I will. But right now, whenever I see it, I'm like, yep, that is AI generated. It's got absolutely no heart, no soul, nothing behind it. It's really ugly. What's particularly horrifying is when AI art tries to be cute. It always comes out bad every time I've seen it. But yeah, I mean, if you want to give yourselves nightmares for just years and years, have a gander at the AI art that other people think is cute. It's really just, it's so horrifying. And again, people keep saying, "Oh, well, check it out in 10 years," and again, I will, because here's the thing, everybody. Here's the part where I'm very potentially going to rank a lot of you. AI art or AI is not going anywhere. So me saying I don't like it and you saying I don't like it, that's not going to make it go away. And saying, hoping that everyone in the whole world will simply reject it as a thing and that it'll go away, I mean, it's just, I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. And I mean, that's true of all technology. You know, you could say, I wish the atomic bomb had never been invented. I wish this had never been invented. I wish that had never been invented. You know, I wish mosquitoes had never evolved as a species. You know, we can wish all day long for the world to be a better place, but you know, wishing for it isn't what's going to affect anything. AI art is a thing that has come about, and it's not only not going to go anywhere, it's probably going to continue to evolve to some really, really frightening and terrifying places. Um, and trust me, I'm not blind to, just how terrifying those places can be. Like when I look at what they are capable of doing right now, I do think about what it's going to be like 10 years from now. And the implications are scary. They're spooky. And right now, they're creepy. Um, but again, I think we as a people, we do ourselves a disservice by just saying we need to ban it because it's just not going to work. It's not going to happen. So what I think we need to do is we need to go, okay, here's this new thing. It's not going to go anywhere. It's going to continue evolving. It's going to, you know, uh, grow and frankly get better at what it does. How can we deal with it responsibly? And those are the questions that I think we need to start asking ourselves. But you know, I one of the other things that one of the other sort of opinions that I've come to that I think upsets a lot of people is that when it comes to the use of AI art, I'm not as partisan as you might think I am. I like I said, I've already accepted the fact that it's here, and um, if I were working on, say, Teenage Robot right now, I had a script once that called for 1 million robots to come flying out of the sky and descend onto an arena filled with people and for a huge battle to break out. Well, if I could have, at that time, just typed in the style of My Life as a Teenage Robot, storyboard a sequence for me where 1,000 robots fly out of the sky and do battle in an arena with Jenny the Teenage Robot. To get me started, I absolutely would have used that. 100%. Um, I would have used it as a place to start. But trust me, for all those crowd scenes, for all those things that I hated doing, if the AI could get it right, you betcha I would use that. So, I mean, that is something I think AI is going to exist as a tool that artists and animators use to take some of the heavy lifting away that we've been burdened with for just generations upon generations. Now, you can say, well, that's different. You're using it as a tool, but that just goes to show that the lines are not as clearly drawn as you might think they are. This is not a black and white issue, in my opinion. Um, an artist can use artificial intelligence to help them create art, and it will be free of sort of that kind of moral ambiguity that I think we're all afraid of. But I mean, case in point, this is not a new argument, and this is not a new thing. This dealing with a new technology as it pertains to the arts. Obviously, even when art started moving away from medieval style paintings to Renaissance style paintings, there were people who were freaked out by Renaissance paintings because they were so realistic that they felt that it was an affront to creation somehow, and that the artists were attempting to usurp God somehow by making something so realistic. When photography came along, people are like, "Oh my goodness, this is going to kill the visual arts because why do we need painters? Why do we need illustrators? Why do we need any of these things if we've got photography?" And then, of course, when CGI animation came along, a lot of people were like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to put traditional animators out of business, and they're going to go away forever and ever." And in each of those cases, painting is still around. 2D animation is still around. It's all still around. And if anything, what I have seen in my lifetime, what I've seen happen is a new technology will come along, and for a period of about 10 years, people will be really excited about the shiny new toy. And that's what it seems like AI is to me right now. It's a shiny new toy. Everyone's really excited about what it can do. Um, and so consequently, every time you blink, you open your eyes and there's somebody new coming out with some new AI thing to show, look what we can do. The thing is, once the novelty of that tends to wear off, you really do start to separate the wheat from the chaff. Like, it wasn't long after CGI first started to manifest itself that even the average person on the street would see really bad CGI, really bad CGI animation, and go, oh, yeah, that's crap. And they would reject it and they would walk away from it. But then places like Pixar came along and started using it really, really well, and they helped it evolve, and they moved it forward, and it became a part of our lives. And many of us who were terrified of it in the beginning came to love it and came to go, oh, it's beautiful. It's its own type of art. And again, that's where I think this is all going to land. I think right now you've got a bunch of tech bros and you've got a bunch of people who aren't artists using AI to create stuff. And by the way, I'm not even calling it art. Because that's where the real problems arise, is when you're using an AI image generator that literally samples from every artist that came before it. And then you've got you've got an AI person who creates an image, and they go, look what I did, here's my art. Well, and I too, I'm with you. I would argue that's not art. It's it's a thing that you generated. At best, it's illustration. And it's illustration based on other people's work, like literally grabbing from other people's work. And so I would argue, at best, it's illustration, but it's certainly not art. Here's the thing, though, and this is where I get stuck, because I will have these arguments in my head all the time where I play both advocate and devil's advocate, and let me tell you, you do not want to spend 10 minutes inside my head, because it's constantly fighting. Because the argument is, well, if your whole problem is appropriation, what do you do with somebody like Andy Warhol? That's what I'm saying. This is an argument that is not new. This has been around for a long time. Andy Warhol was famous for, taking things like the Campbell's soup can, painting it, as a painting, and people would go nuts for it. And the guy who designed the Campbell's soup can was like, well, wait a minute, that's just my graphic design. That's just my creation. And Andy Warhol would take photographs and he would just paint on top of them. And anytime you recontextualize something, you're saying, well, it's not the design of the Campbell's soup can that is the art. It is me recontextualizing it that is the art. And it's like, okay, that's a valid argument. So what do you do with stuff like that? And you can say, well, but they're taking art that other people have done, and that art is fed into the algorithm, and the algorithm steals that art and helps them to create the image. Also true, also a good point. But I got news for you. Particularly just in my anecdotal field of vision, I've known animators and artists who have swiped from film and television from the very beginning. Many people loved Avatar: The Last Airbender and all of the wonderful martial arts that they would do on that show. I got news for you. A lot of the artists working on that show would literally lift moves off of kung fu movies and stuff like that, and they would. And I've known artists, I've known storyboard artists my entire career, who would unapologetically say, oh yeah, how that shot was composed, I ripped that off of this Quentin Tarantino movie or whatever. Now again, you can make the argument, okay, but that's not directly taking from it, that's getting inspired by it. And by the way, that too is a good argument. It's one thing for an artist to say, "Oh wow, I'm inspired by, Jan van Eyck, and therefore I'm going to, sort of copy his style, but I'm going to make it my own, and it's sort of a quiet homage." That too is a really good argument. But and you can make the argument, well, the AI artist is not being inspired, they're telling the algorithm to get the inspiration for him. And that is a really good argument. And that's why when I see an AI generated illustration, I'm like, okay, but how much of that is you and how much of that is literally the algorithm? And that for me is how I personally judge it. Like, if I know something is AI generated, even if I think it's super compelling and interesting looking, I find myself going, okay, that's I have to admit that's super compelling and interesting looking, but how much of it came from you? Because when it comes to art for art's sake, art for expression, and art for capital A art, that's what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be personal expression, and it's supposed to come from the artist. And the person viewing it is supposed to have a sort of interactive experience where hopefully the artist and the viewer, have an almost otherworldly exchange with one another, where the art is interacted with. And if I'm thinking to myself, that image, evokes something in me, but it's lessened because I can tell that most of it was generated by an algorithm, that reduces the experience like almost entirely. So, and that's talking about art as a capital A art form. When you're talking about things like animation and film and stuff like that, that gets into a whole other thing, because of course animation and film are art, but they're collaborative art. So when you have an animated film, you not only have one artist who presumably creates the thing or directs the thing or produces the thing, you've got all these people working under them who are artists themselves, who have completely separate influences all their own, and they bring a little bit of their selves into the art, and they have the people that they were inspired by. So, you're literally having a domino effect of just many, many generations of experiences and art and artists being brought into a thing that the original creator might not even know about. So, again, the line gets really fuzzy, and it gets really, really, it gets very difficult to take a really hard line on the whole thing. Especially when it comes to animation, because again, animation is extremely collaborative. For instance, just off the top of my head, a perfect example, everybody, loves The Simpsons, and everybody loved, when it first came out, Itchy and Scratchy, the cartoon within the cartoon. Well, Itchy and Scratchy are basically a parody of Tom and Jerry. But then Itchy and Scratchy Land was basically a parody of Disneyland. And it's like, okay, so without Tom and Jerry and without Walt Disney, Itchy and Scratchy don't exist. And yet you would see Itchy and Scratchy merchandise, like actual Itchy and Scratchy merchandise. The parody eventually became the reality. So, that begs the question, should if you buy an Itchy or Scratchy doll, should part of that money go to Hanna-Barbera for having created Tom and Jerry? You can't have one without the other. And so again, my point is that the lines get very, 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 very blurry. Because look, it's very easy to take a man versus the machine kind of stance, but I'm not against the machine. This Cintiq is the greatest thing I've ever had. I wished I'd had it when I was working on shows like Fairly Odd Parents or My Life as a Teenage Robot. Oh my gosh, I would have created much better stuff. And in fact, going back, one of my very, very, very favorite folk tales growing up, like Paul Bunyan and Johnny Appleseed and all those folk tales. My favorite was the story of John Henry. And it was the classic man versus machine competition. And of course, I always rooted for John Henry. You always want humanity to come out on top. Um, so again, my point is, the line is not as straight down as I think we would all like it to be. I think we would all love to just be able to say AI art is evil, or that there's no such thing as AI art. But as I said in the beginning, even though everything I've seen that proclaims to be AI art, I have found to be soulless and ugly, that doesn't mean that one day something's not going to come out where I look at it and go, I got to admit, that is good. Somebody did a good job with it. Now, what that's going to mean is that somebody has used the tool effectively. And that's why I don't think we should be afraid of the technology. I mean, yes, it is scary technology, especially as it gets better and better at mimicking reality. I mean, my goodness, there are things about AI art. I mean, where you can make things look so realistic that obviously there's a whole issue here where you could do a deep fake video of someone murdering someone else, and then all of a sudden, there's a whole rabbit hole you can go down, and for stuff like that, I have no idea what we're gonna do. I just don't. But what I do know is that no matter how scary that seems, AI is still not gonna go anywhere. So, but what I was about to get to is, once the sort of new toy smell goes away and the new car smell goes away, and everyone is kind of over, okay, we've seen it, yes, that looks really realistic, hooray. Once that's all gone, I think actual artists are going to start using it, and that's when we're going to see stuff where many of us are going to have to, if we're being, emotionally and artistically honest, we're going to have to say, oh wow, so and so actually used that tool for good and actually did something compelling and interesting and worthwhile with it. A perfect example is something like, okay, going back to the CGI illustration that I used earlier, how everyone was afraid that CGI was going to take over hand-drawn animation. Once the luster of that had worn off, one of the first things people started doing was looking at CGI and going, ooh, people are kind of missing the hand-drawn look. How do we make CGI look hand-drawn? And so they developed ways to make it look hand-drawn. Now, it still doesn't look perfect, but, that's one of the things that was a phenomenon that occurred, was even CGI companies had to stop and go, oh, wait, people like the hand-drawn look. They can tell that there's a human being behind there. We have to find a way to recapture that, and we have to find a way to integrate it into our CGI. And that's the thing I think that's never going to go away. No matter how great the technology becomes as it pertains to art, what's never going to go away is this thing that we human beings seem to have, where we want to be able to tell that there's a human touch there, that there's another person behind that thing being made. And I can't explain it beyond that, but I can just point out that it's there, and that I don't think that's going anywhere either. That will always be there. It's why paintings never disappeared. It's why comic books are still around. It's why books are still around. It's why anything is still around. It's why video games are getting better. That's the thing. Once the shock and awe and fear of the new technology kind of settles, I think we're going to have people who take AI and use it as a tool, and they're going to find, good things that they can do with this tool. I mean, you can take a hammer and you can build a house, or you can take a hammer and you can smash a window. Tools can be used for good, and certainly I think AI is going to be one of those things that eventually someone's going to come along and do great stuff with it, and that's when we're all going to stop being quite so afraid. Case in point, one of the greatest, in my opinion, animation achievements to come out in my lifetime was the animated Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movies. Those movies, like the those animated Spider-Man movies, literally bent over backwards, not just to get a sort of hand-drawn look, but also to mix the mediums in ways that had never been done before. So that's another thing that I think is going to come out of this. You know, people are and have been mixing the medias some more. You know, it's you know, you can enjoy painting and you can enjoy sculpture, but you know, a lot of times when you mix those media, they become all the more compelling. And I think the same thing is going to happen here. The same thing happened with CGI. You still see people. The movie I just saw, The Day the Earth Blew Up, fantastic movie. They used hand drawn. They used pencil animation, and you can tell that they did that. You know, and I think just as CGI animation has now started to look for ways, well, how do we make this look like stop motion? You know, a lot of CGI animation has grappled onto this whole, ooh, you know what? Let's not run this at 30 frames a second, or let's not run this at 24 frames a second. Let's run it at 12 frames a second, so it has that slightly choppy, slightly edgy look to it. The once the luster is over on the new technology and everything, eventually people not only crave to have it look like something that's not so new and shiny, they demand it. And that's what I think is going to happen. You know, I think we're going to have a few years that are going to be really annoying, where every chucklehead and their mother is going to put out, look at my AI art, and we're all going to see it. It's all going to be just awful. But I think very soon thereafter, you're going to have people take it and go, okay, whatever, I'm going to use this, and I'm going to find new ways to innovate and make it look cool. And that's what I think is going to happen. So, but here's the thing. Oh, and by the way, it's two things that just popped into my head. You know, again, even though we have CGI technology that could make a movie like The Fantastic Mr. Fox or Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, they still did it in stop motion animation. There are always going to be artists, there's always going to be creators who are like, yes, I know I could do this using AI, or I could do this using CGI, but there is an ethereal quality that you can't get any other way. I just started rewatching the new Wallace and Gromit movie. They could have done that in CGI, and they probably could have fooled you into thinking that it was stop motion animation, but they wouldn't have done that, because people probably would have looked at it and said, there's just something not right there. And I think that's always going to exist. Now, what I think is unavoidable is that animation professionals and artists in general, we have to be aware of this, but it doesn't do us any good, I don't think, to clutch our pearls and hope it goes away, because it's not going to do that. The people who want to be entertained and the people who want to interact with art are not going to reject the thing just because we tell them we find it morally wrong. We need to be smart. We need to go, okay, you know, and by the way, that's not to say there shouldn't be regulations created. There probably should be. I don't know how you can retroactively, you know, put regulations on what AI generators are allowed to and not allowed to use, because the fact of the matter is, once something is out there, it's out there. I mean, you know, my goodness. You know, practically everything that ever existed is now on the internet somewhere. So I don't know how you can regulate that. I don't know how you can protect copyrighted material, but I am all for, you know, looking for ways to do it. But we should also be realistic about what the limitations of that are going to be. But in the meantime, we as artists, I don't think we do ourselves a favor by you know, shivering in a corner, clutching our pearls, terrified of what the future holds. We have to be smart, and we have to stand up for our own creations, and we have to be smart about how we get behind those and how we protect ourselves. Um, because, as I said, the technology itself is not going to go away. And unfortunately, I know for a lot of you watching, this stance I've got is probably really unsatisfying. You were probably hoping that I was just going to say, nah, AI art is evil and we should do everything we can to obliterate it. But I just don't find that realistic. Now, what is realistic is we can vote with our own eyeballs. We can choose what we do and do not watch, and what we do and do not interact with, and where we put our money. And that's why one of the, as technology has advanced, yes, you've got horror shows like AI art, but you've also got wonderful things like YouTube, which allows independent artists, kind of like the ones we have at Fountain's Pen Cartoons, to create very, very grassroots cartoons and entertainment that are even more human than human. This one of the things I love about YouTube, and one of the things I love about being able to do a video like this and just pop it up there and have it available for anyone to see, is it reminds me of cable access when I was in college. Cable access for a while was its own thing, where you were just watching your neighbors on cable access TV put on goofy little shows. And a lot of them were, of course, very low rent and very, goofy and low quality, but you enjoyed them. And part of what you enjoyed about them was that they were rough, and that they were, they weren't so polished. There's such a, I feel like there are so many things out there that are getting more and more polished looking. I think there's a hunger out there for things that are not polished looking. My art director that I used to work with at Nickelodeon called it anti-slick, and I've taken that phrase and carried it with me through my entire career, because I worked on so many shows. God bless these shows, Fairly Odd Parents and Teenage Robot, with their perfectly drawn lines. But every show that I created had a scratching line to it, because I like that anti-slick look. And I think the slicker that commercial stuff gets, the more of an audience there will be for stuff that is not slick looking, for stuff that looks like, that not only looks like it was made by human beings, it looks like it was made by human beings that live next door to you. Not often some Hollywood mansion somewhere. So I think along with this advance in technology, there's advances in the technology that allow absolutely everybody out there to create and have their creations be seen by a global audience. And so, there's a trade up to all that. You can't have one without the other, but I think the advantages are eventually going to outweigh the disadvantages. So, again, AI art, as I've said, most of it that I've seen at this point is hideously ugly and soulless, and I'm not going to support it. I have the option of not supporting it, especially when I feel like it was, and that's the thing. It's one thing, and I've said this before. It's one thing if you want to use Chat GPT to get you started on writing a cover letter for a job you're applying for, or if you want to use an image generator for your school's bake sale or something like that, to put on the flyer for the kids' bake sale. I have absolutely zero problem with that. And I never have. The minute AI image generators emerged, I had no problem with people who are like, oh, wow, I need a picture of a giraffe that I can put on, the library flyer for, Children's Book Day. So AI, give me a picture of a giraffe, and it makes a picture of a giraffe. Because that brings up a whole other aspect of this thing. It's about where the money is made. That is another argument that goes into all this. It's one thing if you are generating an image or asking ChatGPT to write something for you on something that is really just there for your personal use and there to help you out, or there to even just get you started on the project that you're making. It's another thing entirely for you to say, hey, do me an image in the style of Leonardo da Vinci, but of my dog, and then you hold it up and go, look what I painted. And then proceed to try and sell that painting, or say to people, hey, I'll paint your pet for $50, and then someone gives you a picture of their dog, and you do an AI generated image of their dog and go, here, there you go, I painted it, now give me your $50. It's like, that's a whole other realm of nefarious and should be illegal, and anyone who partakes in any operation like that should be deeply ashamed. But that's where it becomes our job not only to call that stuff out, but to reject it and point it out for what it is. And that's where the fun can come in, because I think there's lots of fun to be had in pointing, laughing, and ridiculing the AI art that is clearly there just to generate content, and just to create horrible brain rot for the internet. I think there's tremendous fun to be had at pointing at that stuff and making fun of it, and that, I think, is how we win, through ridicule, and shame. We point at these things and say, no, you ripped that off. No, that's garbage, and it's garbage, and we're gonna point it out. So, I guess the bottom line is, as I've said, there's no one answer to any of this. There's no one path that we should go down that's going to be the perfect path. It's going to be a bumpy ride. It's going to be a little bit scary. But if I have any message to any of you out there about, what do we do about AI art, it is simply to look back on the history of art and how this is the emergence of AI art is an event that has occurred before in history and will occur again in history. It's part of, human evolution, and we shouldn't fear it any more than people needed to fear photography or CGI or anything else. I think, if anything, we should look at it as an opportunity to show the world that what is special about art is the human element. There is a difference between stuff that was generated through an algorithm and stuff that came from the brain and from the mind and from the experiences of an actual human being. And I think most people will be able to see the difference, and most people will respond to that. And so, if anything, the emergence of AI art is a call to arms for us artists, to say, okay, we're going to put more of ourselves into our work. We're going to make it more special. We're going to put more of our soul into what we do, because that's what people are going to respond to, and then they're going to see that that's what's missing from anything generated from an algorithm. Anyway, I think that's all I've got in me on this subject. I hope you found this satisfying. Like I said, I know that probably a lot of you are watching this and upset that this wasn't just a 20-minute rant on how AI art is evil, or, for that matter, I'm sure there are people that are disappointed that I didn't come out on the other side of it and said, oh no, AI art is fine. We're all just going to be fine. It's all fine here. Thank you. How are you? I'm very middle of the road about it. Like I said, it's not just going to go away. And I'm also not in favor of it being used and abused in horrible ways. So what we have to do is, find a way forward where we use this AI thing, as a tool. And that's all it should be, is a tool. And as for myself as an artist, I know that no computer algorithm, no computer in existence will ever be able to bring what I can bring to anything I do. Because everything that I've ever created has had a tiny piece of me in it. And that that goes from every single character design I did for Invader Zim, every storyboard I did for Chalk Zone, every joke I put into the Fairly Odd Parents or My Life as a Teenage Robot. There's a tiny bit of me in there that cannot be removed or destroyed, and that is there forever. And I think that is the solution that we artists need to look to and say, people are going to recognize stuff that does have a soul and does not have a soul, and I think people are going to respond better to the things that have a soul. All right, everybody, I am going to take this moment to bow out. As I said at the beginning of the video, please, if you enjoyed this, or even if you didn't, you might enjoy some of my other videos more, but even if you hate my videos, please check out the cartoons that we do here at Fountain's Pen Cartoons, because they're really awesome, and I've got just an amazing crew of people creating this stuff. And again, we're doing it from such a grassroots level that you know this is the way. This is how we continue to show people that, hey, art made by real artists. That's where the best stuff is. So please continue, check out the other stuff on this channel. Thank you for your time. I hope you've enjoyed this. Zigga zigga, party people.